Now, my next guest has been described as James Taylor meets John Prine in a second-hand bookshop. I love that phrase. He's back with a new album called Emperor. It is the one and only Anthony Toner. How are you, sir?
I'm terrific. All the better for seeing you.
Good to have you here, and good to have live music back in the studio as well.
I know. I was chatting to someone the other night. They say, it feels like it's been a million years ago, and it feels like only yesterday that we're all out gigging. Time has started to kind of telescope a little bit, But yeah, it's lovely. It's great to be active again.
So how did you find the whole pandemic? Because you kept busy because you released that great album about East Belfast, didn't you?
I did. I was lucky enough to have that, kind of going into the pandemic. I'd been commissioned by East Side Partnership. I already had the song 6 Inches of Water about the Templemore Baths, and they had kind of gently commissioned me and said, if you could do an album of those, we would get behind that. So I had a writing project and I had a few pounds. So it was good. The first lockdown was almost completely non-productive. It was very odd.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people had that. They thought, I'm going to have all this free time now to write and get creative projects finished, and nothing happened.
Yeah.
We all just gardened, and baked, and kind of sat out in the sun. And then, do you remember we had a kind of lift, and then there was a second lockdown, and in that one, I couldn't stop. Mm-hmm. Every time I picked the guitar up, I had a new idea, for which I'm very, very grateful. So I found it really, really good. It was terrible not to have income and not to be sociable and not to have gigs to go to and so on. But I did find it creatively very productive. And as a result, there's an enormous pile of new songs for another album, which I'm hoping to bring out hopefully August.
Yeah. And you're still recording with our good friend Clive Culbertson.
Cosmic
Clive, yeah.
Yeah, well, I couldn't really think of going anywhere else. He and I have built this kind of special relationship. It's been 20 years now,
wow.
Because the first album, I was still quite young when I put that out. Well, young comparatively. And then there was a gap, and then the Sky for Every Day album with Sailortown came out, which is about 12 years ago.
Wow, yeah.
But there was a 6 or 7 year gap between the first and the second album, so it's been a long time. And the studio's great, his ears are still great, and we just have a lot of fun. We have a good kind of relationship in terms of what we think the song needs and what works and what doesn't, so that's always very useful.
And you're from that part of the world, aren't you?
I am originally born and bred, yeah. And I moved up to Belfast. My wife Andrea and I moved up to Belfast about 11 years ago, living over in Sydenham. And we love it, but all my kind of cousins and friends and people I worked with for years are all still in the North Coast, so I'm up and down there, every couple of weeks to see everyone. And
you did the whole journalism thing for many years as well, didn't you?
I did. It was I think it was about 16 or 17 years in local weekly newspapers.
I enjoyed it when I did the experience in the local weeklies, because obviously I did the Ulster Star in Lisburn for many years as well. It's good fun, isn't it?
It is. Well, we would have been stablemates, because I was with Morton's, I was with the Times, first in Antrim and then in Coleraine when they opened the new paper. But yeah, you kind of, it's funny because you become an observer of the community, but you're also kind of part of it. People rely on you for help. But you also get to kind of see things happening almost in real time, because you and I knew all the stories before the paper came out, so you feel kind of slightly privileged to have the inside track on it.
And I used to love it when people would just wander in off the street to sit down and tell you a story.
Yeah, I know.
You didn't ask for it.
Or the fact that you couldn't just go out for a pint, but somebody would say, here, I have a story for you.
Yeah.
When you think, I'm just out for dinner, But no, it was great. And lifelong friendships as well, just really interesting, creative people.
Yeah.
And crazies, a lot of crazy people.
Oh, of course. Let's talk about the new album, Emperor. This is a lot of your old songs.
It is.
But kind of stripped back and reworked, isn't it?
This had a slightly strange genesis, Robin, because I initially had, one of the things that I've been thinking for the last few years is that I wanted to kind of expand my territory and play the folk club scene in Scotland and England and places like that. And I thought, most of my albums have drums and horns and strings and things on them. And I thought I should really do something that's completely acoustic. So I had recorded this almost as a promotional item that I could send out to a lot of those venues and promoters. And then my wife heard a couple of tracks and she said, you'd be mad not to put this out as an actual album. So I ended up doing that. And reaction has been really, really good. It's kind of what I would call favourite songs from the back catalogue, and there's a few songs in there that I wanted to revisit, Boy Struck by Lightning, and I always thought that was that song deserved a bit more attention. So I re-recorded them all really quietly, just with the guitar and the voice. And as I say, people have really reacted to it. They're saying they're hearing the songs almost kind of anew, and that's always good.
The one song you'll never get away from is Sailortown.
Of course, yes. How could I forget?
I remember the first time I heard it, like many people, it was our good friend Jerry Anderson who played it on his radio show. And I mean, that's how the song took off for you, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Jerry was so helpful and so encouraging, and he'd such a huge audience that when he featured you at all, either playing the record or having you in on those Friday morning live sessions, you could just see the needle starting to turn. You know, it really made a huge difference. And for me, that one song, to this day, I'd still put it all back to that one song and that one broadcaster, because his championing of that song kind of, people then started to say, would you come and play at our festival? Would you open for so-and-so? And I began to get work. And since then, the last 11 or 12 years for me, really, I've been trying to keep that momentum going.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, you've got the guitar there.
I apparently do, yes.
And I hope if I say, can I have a request, please? Will you do Sailortown? Since we've spoken about it, you're going to say yes.
I'd be delighted to.
Thank you.
So, me and Elaine, we've been hanging around in what was once Sailortown, drinking cheap red wine by the light of the Belfast moon. There's nobody left here that works at the docks. It's all urban renewal and apartment blocks. Summer is fading, winter will be coming soon. The walls in the city have a lot to say about the UVF and the IRA. It's cold by the river, but the sky is full of stars. But these walls say nothing about who I am when I'm singing in the garden at the Rotterdam, doing Brown-Eyed Girl and whiskey in the jar. And I know they're tearing it down street by street. Look out below, there goes the ground beneath your feet. Elaine's mother thinks I'm some kind of crook. She meets me at the door with a dirty look. My welcome round there is starting to wear thin. 'Cause I promised everybody I would knuckle down, but my grades weren't good enough this time round. All my time runs out in the end. And I know they're tearing it down street by street. Look out below, there goes the ground beneath your feet. I can't wait to be rid of school, but Elaine's got a place at Liverpool. By the time September comes, she'll be gone. And she says she'll text me every day, but that's something she feels she has to say. She'll call me once at Christmas, then move on. Me and Elaine, we've been hanging around in what was once Sailortown.
So do you know what I'm dying to know? Whatever happened to Elaine?
Oh, Elaine. Well, the hard truth is that it's almost entirely fictional.
Wow, really?
There were, I wrote the song after doing a gig with the Ronnie Greer Blues Band, a very early gig with them in the Rotterdam. And it was late summer, and I remember looking out from the Rotterdam onto the Clarendon dock, and there were loads of kids outside with little Spanish guitars and bottles of wine and everything. And I remember thinking, it's that time of year when they're all going to be going their separate ways. you know, some of them are going to go to university, some of them are going back to repeat A-levels or do A-levels, and some of them are going to go out into the world of work. And that sense of young people at that age about to kind of, you know, they're all going to split. So that was the kind of the sense of the song. And there were other things that were in my head, the Rotterdam especially, the kind of the history around that whole area. And there's a wonderful poet from Sailortown called John Campbell,
who I think I met once, because Jerry used to read his poems out on the radio all the time.
They really lend themselves to being read aloud. And he had a collection that Blackstaff put out years ago called Saturday Night in York Street. And I'd always loved them. And they were kind of in my head around that whole time as well. So the whole thing kind of, it all became part of where the song came from. But there's no specific Elaine, unfortunately. We'll have to find one.
We'll have to find an Elaine, won't we?
We'll have to crown her Elaine from Sailortown. You know?
So Sailortown's on the new album. What else is on this then?
Well, it's a collection of I suppose it's almost like a best of, because it's on there, and Cousins at Funerals is on there. You know, The Road to 5 Mile Town is on there. Well, well, well. But there's also there's a few songs that from my own back catalogue that I quite liked, and I thought either I didn't really like the way I'd recorded them years ago, or I thought they deserved another look. So there's a couple of things on there, like there's a song called Grateful, Boy Struck by Lightning, and things like that. So it's a little personal collection. I wanted to make sure that there were things on there that people could relate to, like Sailortown, you know, but that there would always be some new things for them as well.
You got some live dates coming up as well, haven't you?
I do. I'm delighted to say that actually live dates, even over the last 2 or 3 days, have really started to fly in for the later part of the year, from September through to Christmas. I'm lucky enough to have about 3 weeks with Barbara Dixon in November.
She's a great lady.
She's a fantastic person and a really good friend. Actually, we've really become good friends over the last few years, and it's a fun show to do. I go on and do about half an hour, and then I'm invited on the end to do a duet with Barbara Dixon.
Wow.
I have to pinch myself, you know, it's just great. But they're very fun people to be around. So that's in November, and we're all up and down the UK. But from September, October, and even into December when I come back, I'm going to have gigs all around Northern Ireland. I mean, everywhere from Enniskillen, Lisburn, Ballymena, Portstewart. Yeah, and so I'm in the process of putting them all onto my website so everybody can have a look.
Brilliant. Well, we'll check that out. Right, the album is out now. I'm going to get you to do another one before you go. What are you going to do for us this time?
I'm going to do a song called Exit Wounds. It's actually a recitation.
Right.
More, like, you know, in keeping, we were talking about John Campbell. Let's have one of those. So this was something that I had kind of almost written as a monologue in the car. Actually, I'd kind of come up with these lyrics, and then I found this little piece of music to put to it, but I don't really sing, I just talk. So this is called Exit Wounds.
Brilliant, Anthony. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to be back with you.
Thank you.
Friend's dad had this pistol, and he kept it in a bedroom drawer. Now this was life during peacetime. I don't even know what he had it for. It wasn't even in a holster or any kind of presentation box. It was just lying in this drawer between his underpants and socks. Now he checked the safety catch, and he squared up like a man, and then he told me it was loaded, and he placed it in my hand. My friend had seen this all before, and he sat at the foot of the bed. He knew when his dad was on the rum and coke, it would sometimes turn his head. Now I'd seen 1,000 guns on TV, held by cowboys and detectives, but this was real and black and heavy, much more serious than expected. But I pointed it at the wardrobe, and I practiced looking grim, and then I waved it at the curtains and gladly gave it back to him. His wife was absolutely furious when she found out what he'd done. I mean, come on, a grown man and 2 12-year-olds in a bedroom with a loaded gun. She knew better than he did how teenage minds unfold, how if you hold a loaded gun, it's something you never quite unhold. friend and me grew up loaded, with our safeties mostly on, and it's strange to think that the father and the pistol are both gone. And the underpants in the drawer, even the bedroom we stood in, the bullets and the trigger and the firing pin. And in this country full of exit wounds and heartaches by the ton, to this day that's still the only time I ever held a gun.